Well, Kate, look, it's like the Kremlin is saying to the world, okay, we are committing a genocide, but we will have a party and our friends will come and we don't want to spoil the party. So let's just put the genocide on pause for a little while, a couple of days, and then we will resume killing Ukrainian people, destroying Ukrainian cities and, ruining the lives of millions of Ukrainian people in our country. So that's how it sounds. We have said on our side that, look, if you're serious about your commitment to peace, if you really are serious about what you yourself say that you want to achieve peace, let's declare an unconditional, comprehensive ceasefire on land, on sea, and in the sky, and let's start talking about, how we are going to solve this diplomatically. So the proposal of a 3-day ceasefire, 3-day parade ceasefire, is not perceived seriously. But of course, on our side, every day, Kate, is, every day without shells flying and missiles flying means more Ukrainian lives saved. So we are happy even for 3 days ceasefire. But of course, for the peace process to be efficient, we need to talk about 30 days minimum.
What do you think the Kremlin will be doing now? Because it will be looking at this deal and wondering how to react and how it can now take the upper hand and influence Trump. They've got reason to be worried, haven't they? And Dmitry Peskov has said Russia won't do any peace deal the way Trump wants it. What do you expect their next move to be?
Well, I don't think they will change their tactics. We have reports from our general staff and from our top military command that they're preparing for new attacks. And now that the climate changes, the weather conditions will probably, they think, will be more favorable for them in terms of more attacks. Of course, they will continue their friendship with countries like Iran and North Korea. They will continue to be supplied with missiles and drones from their partners in crime, and I don't think we will see in the coming weeks or months any decrease in their military activity on their side. But what we have to also think about and just reflect on is this: if we look at how, because Russia knows and knew this from the very first day of the large-scale invasion, that for it to prevail on the battlefield, it needs to stop Ukraine's partners from providing us with support. Now, of course, Ukrainian people are fighting heroically. The army is really innovative, and we're fighting a smart war. But at the same time, we are dependent on the support from our partners. Even though, having said that, at the moment we have actually built up our own defense industry to such an extent that more than 40% of all the weapons used by the Ukrainian army on the front lines is domestically produced. So that's another, factor that Russia is taking into account when planning their future offensives. But Russia will, we understand, continue their attacks. They are now more openly mocking the peace process, because if you look at the way they are commenting on the peace proposals, that's literally, taking a mockery of the efforts of the US, of Ukraine, because they're just saying, well, we'll just have everything and you get nothing, right? That's the art of the deal, the Kremlin style. But that's not going to work like that. And we're seeing that there is a growing understanding of this reality in the White House. And I think that will probably encourage them to consider more things like economic sanctions, like sanctioning the shadow fleet that enables Russian energy trade. That will the US will also consider perhaps providing Ukraine with more powerful weapons. So we'll have to see how that goes. But for now, hopeful and skeptical. That's the kind of situation we're in.
A mixture, yes. And I mean, earlier this week, the US had yet again threatened to walk away from the peace negotiations. Do you think that this movement in terms of the business deal on the rare minerals makes that less likely? Does that give you cause for hope? Because Trump is clearly feels like he's made some progress with negotiations with Ukraine, but he is clearly losing patience that there is intransigence on this peace deal. Or a ceasefire deal?
Yes, I think overall, now that the deal is signed, it will be much more difficult for the White House to sort of blame the lack of progress on Ukraine. put simply, because we everything that was proposed by the White House, we after discussions we've agreed to. So we just the same way as the US, we are in favor of an unconditional ceasefire, a 30-day ceasefire, which should pave the way for a more lasting and enduring peace. We have signed the critical minerals deal, which will go towards it's a mutually beneficial deal. So at the moment, there is nothing from the Ukraine and the US side that should stop us from sort of pushing forward with the peace process. It's just Russia who is now putting the spanner in the works. And we hope that the result, of course, will be at some point that the US will have to consider a different strategy, a different negotiating strategy, because the art of the deal, we have seen one side of the art of the deal. I think time is coming for all to see the other side of the deal, where more pressure is put on the aggressor.
So you think that actually is a real possibility now that Donald Trump will actually be prepared to put sanctions on Russia, increase sanctions on Russia?
Well, look, unless they are ready for this peace process to stall, this will have to be a mixture of diplomacy and pressure. And of course, we have to be aware of the fact that there are many things which are said and done behind closed doors, and we don't actually get to see or read or hear them. But at the same time, it's too early to kind of give up. And I think Russia is overall in a pretty bad economic state. They understand this. Time is not actually on their side. So they are being degraded, that they're not gaining anything on the battlefield. They have lost tens of thousands of soldiers just in the last couple of months. We have degraded their military capability by using our deep strike drones. We are targeting their ammunition depots. We are targeting their oil refineries. So in essence, I think the momentum is here for the Ukrainian-US partnership and the European partnership to actually apply pressure on Russia and force them to consider this more seriously.
Only last week, Russia launched the deadliest attack on Kyiv in 9 months. Numerous people killed and injured. It has since launched a massive drone attack on Kharkiv and is making advances in the northeast of the region. It's in Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson. Clearly, it's trying to capitalize on these delaying tactics. How much is it achieving?
This is very irrational because on the one hand, at the same time, when top US representatives are in Russia talking to the leadership of the Kremlin about the peace process, they are launching massive missile strike. Look, since last Sunday, Russia has launched more drones on Ukraine than in the whole of May of 2024, a year ago. So they have actually intensified ridiculously their attacks. Of course, this means that our air defense systems sometimes are not capable of actually deflecting all of these attacks. That means that, the our need in more advanced air defense systems is growing. And we have actually said this to the US. We are actually happy to consider buying the Patriot systems, for example, from the US by using the frozen assets of the Russian Federation. So it's irrational because but Russia is irrational overall. I mean, they say one thing and they do an absolutely opposite tactics on the ground. So, but again, they're just showing to the world their true face. They're not interested in peace. Russia wants Ukraine to disappear from the map of Europe. Russia wants the future generations of Ukrainians to stop calling ourselves Ukrainians. They want this to be the same people, the same sort of slave mentality. And this is what we are fighting for. We have to remember that with all the critical mineral deals signed, for us, it is still about survival. It is about values. And I think this is how it is for the most of Europe, for example, because, everybody understands very well that it's not about just territories in eastern Ukraine or Crimea, right? It's about Russia trying to superimpose the tyrannical regime on first Ukraine, and then hopefully they want to extend it further west to the sphere of influence of the former Soviet Union. and we're doing our best to stop that from happening. And I think if it hasn't happened so far, fingers crossed it won't happen at all.
You've been watching Frontline for Times Radio. If you'd like to know more about the war in Ukraine, you can subscribe and sign up for a membership. You can also get more analysis by listening to Times Radio or read thetimes.com. But for now, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.